All right, I am recording a segment for YellBRo Dark, or from the YellBRo Dark live stream. And today's topic is going to be inauthenticity. Ooh, scary. Before I get started, don't forget to share, support, hopefully donate to Devon's Journey to Recovery, to helping victims of Africom, to Cohen Daly, the Australian boy. I think I said Ethan Cohen before. Fuck that up. Cohen Daly, the Australian boy. Also, do not forget to share, support, and hopefully donate to some other content creators. Stevie, aka Redneck Economics, Sleepy J, Buy My Coffee, and Ali Alexandra. All links in the description box. All right. So this idea of inauthenticity and how it applies to something beyond just the metaphysics and the philosophies and the spirituality, and maybe makes its way into politics or something like that, or a social thing. So here's my description, or at least what happens during inauthenticity, as far as like someone in the existential sense, right? We can see the inner workings of someone and also thus the behavior, right? Which we'll get into later. But I think the inner process is someone creating a barrier, not really consciously, but in like a survival response, creating a barrier between the ego and the quote unquote true self, which is all the faculties, right? The true self, in my mind, is all the faculties, including the ego and all the shallower surface things. But if there's a barrier or a blockage there, that's when you'll see the inauthenticity. Even by their own standards, it's inauthentic. So what this is, in my mind, is so all right. So when I say survival, it's not necessarily physical survival, although that plays a role as well. But once it enters the psyche, now it's not physical, right? So even the notion of like a bear or lightning or something like that. My two fears: bears and lightning. Fuck bears, fuck lightning. What's up, Shro? Uh, even those, once they enter the psyche, are now in that metaphysical realm, right? There's kind of a disconnect. There's not a direct connection between the physical and the metaphysical, right? It starts working its way in the psyche, those type of fears or, something like that. So what happens is you have this concept of, let's say it's a bear, right? Scary bear, scared of bears, fuck bears. Uh, they're too fast and like big and strong. It shouldn't happen. What's up, Steve Cutler? You have this notion or fear of bears, right? A psychological notion of like caution or, be weary of this thing. You have that concept, and then in between that concept or the ego, or between the ego and the authentic self, that's where that concept would relegate itself to. It ends up becoming a barrier where in a moment, like if you sat down nice and calm and cool and just imagined, like, what would I do if a bear popped up? And you go through all these psychological processes of strategy and things that how to get out of this situation and all that. Yet, if a bear popped in front of you, it's like those might go to the side, and you might just be like running with it, like a chicken with its head cut off. The when the actual or when the or when you're in that calming type of state, it would seem like you can see things much clearer, which would be like, oh, the ego's not so much in that fear state, right? There's nothing really blocking it between that authentic or blocking between the authentic and the ego. There's actually a direct connection because you're not actually in that fear state. If you're actually in that fear state, that's when the muck kind of creates a barrier and your ego is just absolutely scrambling without any attachment. You're like, hey, shouldn't you? Okay, maybe stop there. Whatever strategy you came up with, right? So that's like a small example of how this could play out. But the way we're going to talk about it is how people behave. Now, in this example, instead of the physical fear of like, I'm going to die because it's a fucking bear, fuck bears again, it's more of the fear of the destruction of the ego, of an aspect of the ego. Which aspect? The aspect that you've created about yourself. If I look at myself as, I don't know, I'm the best this or that at something, right? That's your idea in your ego, this perception of yourself. But then something externally threatens it, like someone being better at it than you. When you see someone go out of the way, or this could be in the realms of like being correct and incorrect, right? If you're correct about something or incorrect about something, let's go with that example instead. Forgive me, I ramble. I'm spitballing here. I'm just going off the top of the head. Let's go with the notion of someone being incorrect about something, right? But in their ego, they're holding the concept of them being correct. And it feels you're in that authentic state, right? To where it's like, I'm right about this, and thus there's no blockage. There's no, like, it's, oh, not only do you get to play with the idea in your mind, but you also get to authentically feel about it too. But then what if that idea gets challenged and it sounds even more correct? Right? It's like, fucked. Oh no. Or someone debunks your logic or something like, oh fuck. This is where the inauthenticity is really at. It's that barrier to where instead of a full self saying, that's right, that's where the idea digs down into the subconscious, like, fuck, I could be wrong. I'm wrong about this. Instead of that happening, a barrier gets created, a blockage happens, so that it's the ego scrambling to protect itself. Like, oh fuck, we can't let this idea get through to our mind, because then it breaks everything. It breaks my structure I built, my big castle I built. It's going to destroy it. We must keep this idea out. And we see this a lot in the quote unquote political realm, right? To where people are, even though it's like, fuck, this sounds absolutely incorrect, they will hug, kiss, and stay close to that idea, regardless of what logic is thrown at them, regardless of whatever contradicting ideas thrown at them that sounds more correct. Also, no matter if it's, this one is usually hard to hang on to, but let's say there's a consensus against your idea. Sometimes people do that. They still hug close to that, to the notion that they had. And that's when you start seeing, at least with that particular idea where there's blockage, like that's when you start seeing the inauthenticity being practiced. Most people will point out a guy like Vosh or something like that, right? To where it's like, fuck, does this guy know he's wrong? Or know he's arguing on the wrong side of this issue? But at the same time, he will do the mental gymnastics, the dancing, the anything he can do to make himself sound correct. That's me just taking him as like on face value, right? It could be a lot darker than that. People have they're like, oh, maybe he's working for some sort of thing, some sort of intelligence or whatever the fuck, as like some sort of provocateur or whatever, or infiltrator of the left. But just taking him on the surface, it's right. It's like you can see him dancing and shaking to make sure that this thing that he's trying to protect with his ego, and holds it up And no matter how incorrect it sounds, or no matter how much logic is thrown at it, still tries to hold up this idea. And that's when, in my mind, it can be very, 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 very dangerous. Very dangerous. Because a person, in my mind, expressing themselves inauthentically can end up almost like a virus spreading that inauthenticity to other things, to where it's just you're just dogmatically repeating words, repeating ideas, instead of actually uh, really soaking in what's being said to you. Like really soaking it in and be like, no, that's incorrect here. I agree with this part, but this part's incorrect. Or just like, this is flat out incorrect. Or, hey, I was wrong. You're correct. And then when you extrapolate that into a bigger scale of society, like, well, what do humans do? Especially with the internet around, what do? We spread ideas constantly. Ideas about so many fucking things. Now, what if someone has an inauthentic attachment to an idea rather than the actual thing? You could take a guy like James Watson, the DNA guy, DNA discoverer guy, right? He'll say things like, well, Kate Moss, Kate Moss is unhappy because she's skinny. Why? Because his mind state, this is my guess, this is a faraway guess, I could be wrong, but my guess is that his mind state is so wrapped up in genetics that he sees everything in the field, the scientific field of genetics, that he sees every incident of humans doing things as just genetic code. It's almost like that inauthenticity, right, blocks the actual full, like, the ability to be authentic in the notion of like, hey, I could be wrong, or hey, I don't know, or hey, I think I'm right, but I don't know. I'm going to leave room for the I don't know so that I stay authentic, so that I can actually see the known. There's no other way to see the known unless you leave room for it. If you block it up with your egotistical notions of things, you're fucked. You're just gonna, even if the truth hit you in the face, you still wouldn't actually get the truth. Uh, if I say that, if I say the sky is blue, right? Egotistically say that the sky is blue, and you know, is that a good example? I'll try it. I'll say that if I say the sky is blue, but just in a egotistical sense of it, right? Strictly that. No wonder of, hey, what if I'm the only one seeing this color? Or hey, what does blue mean? Or deeper thoughts like that. Forgive me making it about the sky. But just straight up, just dogmatically, the sky's blue. The sky's blue. And it's all on the surface, egotistical notions of it. And come to find out the truth is the sky is blue. But I don't get to actually have a relationship with the actual truth because I stayed in dogmatic land. I'm not speaking the language of truth. Now it's just a factoid instead of an actual truth. At least for me, within me, like known within me. Right? Because the truth is going to have many different angles, and to capture the entire truth cannot be sitting at the pinpoint of your fucking ego. Sorry. You're getting the factoid, shallow, cookie crumb version of a of an idea. But if the whole self is involved, now you're getting the whole thing, the whole truth. If you can actually do it's hard. That would be more difficult with external things. Usually, like a whole truth would be something known about yourself. Like I would say, like I say this a lot, like, hey, my favorite color is blue. And if you do the full, bring your whole self to the table, and you find it and you make it and it becomes a known that my favorite color is blue, there is no changing that. There is a truth known right there. Thus, I can operate with it. Right? I can behave with that notion as opposed to shallow sense of it, ego protective muck, right? The ego being disconnected from the full authentic self. That muck is the thing that's keeping the ego disconnected. Now I can't truly walk around like it's a truth, which means I'm going to end up pretending, which is what that sounded like when I said, the sky's blue, the sky's blue, the sky's blue. Instead of a, like, it's a, I hope you catch the drift of what I'm saying. Like, there's a different notion. You're walking around a bit different with that knowledge as opposed to, yeah, your ego is actually reading this as a guess, but you just repeating it 30 fucking times doesn't make it a truth. Knowing it puts it in the realm of truth. Like, I know this is the case, thus I know the truth. As opposed to, I'm basically just guessing, but subconsciously, I know I don't know. It's like walking around with a 1 and a 0 instead of a 1 and a 2. It's my little movie symbolism. Donald Duck. Hey, Donald Duck. So there's my ramble. Oh no, wait, I'm not done yet because I have to tailor it, I have to pass it on into the realm of politics of why this particular thing is absolutely massive. It is massive in the political realm, right? Let me go with two-pronged things here. One would be your ability to navigate this realm, because be real, there's fucking grifters and hucksters around every fucking corner. There's a lot. There's a lot, and it's not always it's not always like, this is what I mean in authenticity. Like, you know, it's not always like I'm purposely doing this to make money and blah blah blah. It may be look at this. If I, right, in the ego, they're saying, I always use Medicare for all. I'll use it again. I want Medicare for all. Right in their ego, they'll say that's the idea they want to happen. And it's like, okay, instead of saying, okay, what goes into studying or what goes into getting this thing passed, instead it's just, I want Medicare for all. I will, in a way, sacrifice certain maybe qualities, principles, whatever. I will sacrifice them in order to get Medicare for all staying within the ego, lacking that authenticity. Thus, when the in-between moments of the initial idea of Medicare for all and then the actual Medicare for all being implemented, in the middle gets fucking lost, right? The sky's blue because the sky's blue. The sky's blue. Medicare for all. Medicare for all. And we've seen this with all the articles. Alien Sebs did an article. Like, Shadow talks about, like oh, how about the actual policy? Like, how about how the policy is implemented? Ed brings this up. Plenty of people bring this up, right? Towards like, oh, like even that level of depth to actually be like, you can't just say we want Medicare for all, and then they hand you a paper that says Medicare for all, and you just sign it. Like, oh, you got to think a little bit deeper. Oh, what's in this thing? How will it be implemented? Who's going to implement it? That's my biggest concern about who's going to do this thing, right? Those deeper questions that you're asking about authenticity. Does this piece of paper represent the authentic idea I have within myself? Or did I forego it for the sake of, I just want the thing signed? I want Medicare for all. What's up, Steven Torres? How you doing? So, yeah, that applies there. That's more. I guess that's more of like an individual. It's all individual in me. What the fuck am I talking about? Now, another aspect, which is kind of like the last part, what I was saying with the Medicare for all thing, to where it's like who's going to be implementing it. My God, is authenticity important? How do we tell? This whole big thing's been happening with Tulsi Gabbard, right? Where it's like, I can't believe this happened with her. Like, she was saying this in the campaign, and now she's saying this, that she's not running or whatever. What happened to her and all that stuff. And it's like, before we deem these guys heroes or saints or even just like they're really, really good politicians. They're good at trying to get what I want done. It's like, well, how do you know that? This one's a little more abstract, but I truly believe that if you start recognizing your own notions of your own authenticity, like really having a relationship with your own authenticity, your ego having a relationship with the rest of yourself, I truly believe that maybe you could maybe even sniff this stuff out. Commentators, politicians, basically anywhere, right? It shouldn't be relegated to the realm of politics, but just saying, in the realm of politics, like, oh, maybe I can notice something, or maybe not even notice something. Maybe I'll know to ask a question here. Because what was the thing about, this is a blatant example, but like the Biden thing, right? When Biden was running, everyone was like, no, it wasn't Biden. It was Buttigieg. My bad. Right? He's a new face. No one knows him. Not really. Right? He's kind of a new guy. And then when people heard him talking, they were like, hey, what's with all these just platitudes? You're not actually saying anything, man. You're not actually saying anything in the realm in regards to policy. Thus, you smell inauthentic. Right? Now imagine that, but on a deeper level. What if people asked Tulsi Gabbard these questions? That I didn't see as much. Saw plenty of questions about Pete Buttigieg. But people liked words Tulsi said out loud. And it's like, I get that. I get it. But you got to do a lot more to be someone that I would vote for. Right? It's like showing receipts of your authenticity. In my mind, you are authentically on a righteous pursuit to make the world better. There are no days off. Straight up, there's no days off. It's essentially like you wouldn't murder anyone at nighttime. Well, you wouldn't murder anyone at daytime. You wouldn't murder anyone in your dreams. You wouldn't murder it, like on and on and so forth. It's like you're authentically by those principles 24/7. If you're not, you need to fucking work on that shit. Or maybe you're not cut for this shit. Maybe that's not what this isn't what you actually want to do. Go find that authentic expression of whoever, AOC, Tulsi Gabbard, Bernie Sanders, whoever the fuck. Right? So taking that in regards to Tulsi, right? If she has this moral thing, these moral principles that take no breaks, right? If you're going to be authentic about it, it doesn't take breaks, right? It's not a role. It's actually you just being expressed in the world. It's not a role you're playing. If that's actually you, then I don't care if you're sitting next to Jocko Willink, Joe Rogan, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, person on the internet, Indie News, Jimmy Dore, Al Kolinsky, Nico House, whoever the fuck you're standing there, like that, those are your principles 24/7. Now it's like I heard her tout these ideas in regard, like when she's on Jimmy Dore, like, that fits the audience, or on Nico's channel, that fits the audience. But it's like, okay, now you're on Joe Rogan's podcast and you're next to Jocko Willink, the military rah rah guy. Like, do our do our do our principles take a backseat that it doesn't cause any type of discomfort or hurt the flow of the show? Or how about when you're on a debate stage? Your whole thing's foreign policy. You got Joe Biden standing right there. The principles, like, I understand there's like time limits and shit like that with debates. At the same time, the same thing you can scorch the CIA for, you can scorch Joe Biden for. I didn't really hear that. And then what? Even if you're gonna go with like the time constraint thing, okay. Now let's go to her endorsement of Biden. Sounds like she turned it off there. It's either that, either she turned off that sense of things, that sense of foreign policy then, or he has no idea what Joe Biden's done. Either which way, it's like not good enough for this job. Joe Biden's sloppy shit can sneak past you. Yeah, you're not ready for this, right? How about someone like AOC, where it's like, what does Ben Shapiro say? Fresh face, right? Someone new, someone we don't have like a track record with or anything like that, or even a Donald Trump, you could say too. But he clearly has like a public persona who's said things out loud about whatever the fuck. AOC is a lot more undiscovered when she first came around. Now, obviously, it's like, okay, you don't have the platform yet to say this or that about whoever or whatever. Right? She said things about policy and politics and all that shit, and even said things about establishment and how bad they are and all that stuff. And it's like, in my mind, it's like, I'll keep an eye on you. I won't just go, yeah. There's a reason for that. It's like, well, anyone can say words out loud. That's me looking for a deeper sense of authenticity, not just no money politics. Yeah, no money politics. Yeah. And the wars. Yeah, and the wars. Yeah. I'm looking for authenticity. I'm hoping for it. I think she said something about like we need to be a champion for moral good. I heard her say that. That's like right up my alley. Pause. But you got to do more than just say the words. Anyone can memorize certain words. Show me like, hey, why do you care to do good? No one's going to ask her that question, but I wish someone would ask her that question. Give me a sense of authenticity. I would love that. So, yes, there is room for studying concepts like authenticity versus inauthenticity. There is room for it in the political realm. Hopefully, from my perspective, hopefully we dig more into it. All right, that's it for me. Please subscribe if you like, comment, agree, disagree. Tell me what you think. What do you think about authenticity? Do you have a different notion of it? Do you have different things you look for? Do you not care at all? Tell me what you think in the comment section. Do not forget to share, support, hopefully donate to Devon's Journey to Recovery, to Helping Victims of Africom, to Cohen Daly, the Australian boy. Also, help out some other content creators, Stevie, aka Redneck Economics, Sleepy J, buy my coffee with 2 scoops, and also Ali Alexandra. All links in the description box. With all that said, give this video a thumbs down.